Hello and welcome. So today, guys, it is all about Rasasi. I will be sharing with you today 6 fragrances that I think are perfect for the current spring and definitely upcoming summer season. In case you've never heard of Rasasi, Rasasi is a Middle Eastern fragrance house that is known for their exceptional quality in fragrances while still keeping fragrances at an affordable price. Most of us started our journey with Rasasi with fragrances like Rasana or Jasmine Wisp. At one point or the other, I'm sure you've heard someone talk about those 2 fragrances, but today we are going to be talking about 6 fragrances that are just exceptional. As always, I will be giving you a detailed review. But before we jump right in, if this is your first time here, I'm Marahi. And I'm your fragrance concierge because I am committed to creating a great fragrance experience for you. I upload videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, and sometimes you even get a bonus video for the week. If that sounds like the type of content that you're interested in and like a good plan, then please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget, leave a comment. Let's go. Alright guys, so before we get started, I just wanted to first thank the Rasasi team because they are sponsoring today's video. And second of all, I wanted to let you know that the 6 fragrances that I will be sharing with you today, I will start with my least favorite and go all the way up to my most favorite. I hope you know that although Rasasi is sponsoring today's video and they did send me these fragrances, I will be giving you my honest opinion. But as I shared in the opening, these are fragrances that I have been using for over a month in between all the other fragrances that I test on the regular, and I can tell you that I am very, very impressed with these fragrances. I also have to tell you that the performance on all of the fragrances that I'm going to share with you today is just exceptional. So we're going to go ahead and start with Classic Moment for Women. When it comes to Classic Moment, I have to tell you, the moment that I first sprayed this fragrance, I was just wowed. I was definitely wowed because it is absolutely exquisite. It opens with quite a bit of bergamot. Like in the opening, there's a fruitiness to it and you pick up on the sweetness of the fragrance. But oh my goodness, there is like a freshness to the opening and it's all about the bergamot, at least to my nose. The bergamot then is immediately joined by jasmine, and that jasmine, oh my goodness. The jasmine is beautiful because it's not a dominant jasmine note. It blends very well with the freshness of the bergamot. My nose doesn't necessarily pick up on the bergamot and the jasmine. No, it picks up on like the jasmine and like a fresh kind of background. And then immediately I start to pick up on the most beautiful rose. This rose is definitely a young and dewy rose. You know, like that fresh rose that you find in a garden first thing in the morning, like with the dew on the petals. Yeah, that's what I'm picking up. And then that rose is immediately joined by vanilla. There's quite a bit of vanilla in this fragrance. And they haven't disclaimed it, but I think that there's a touch of oud in this fragrance. It is unmistakable to my nose. I know that there's oud in this fragrance, but it's not a real present oud. Or maybe it's just done in a very refined way because it's just a touch of oud. But I definitely pick up on oud in this fragrance. At the dry down, I get the most beautiful, like creamy quality fragrance, which I think comes as courtesy of the sandalwood, which I definitely pick up on. But this fragrance at the base is definitely a musky fragrance. But like I said, it brings on that like creaminess coming from the sandalwood mixed with like the vanilla and then the florals in the background. And it is also a very ambery kind of fragrance. I tell you, this fragrance is absolutely exquisite. And this is a fragrance that I dare say you can use it for night occasions during the summer. You could probably use it for late afternoon, but this is not a fragrance that I would pull for first thing in the morning. As in, I don't think that this is like a sports or a gym type of fragrance. No, there's too much character to this fragrance and it speaks to special occasions. But would I say that you should reserve it just for formal occasions? No, not necessarily. But this is definitely a fragrance that I think is best suited for occasions that occur between late afternoon, early evening, and definitely into the night. This is a fragrance that every time I wear it does get me compliments, and at a minimum on skin gets me 8 hours, and on clothes, oh my goodness, it just goes on forever. This fragrance is bordering on beast mode, and what I really love about this fragrance is that there is nothing in my collection that smells like it at all whatsoever. There is character to this fragrance, and I really think that this fragrance is designed more for someone who's over 30 years of age. So 30 plus, definitely. I can't imagine a 20-something-year-old really pulling off this fragrance because there's a certain level of maturity that goes with it. The next fragrance that I want to bring to your attention is Diamante Heavenly. Now guys, I don't know if you recall, but I'm pretty sure that I've talked about this fragrance on the channel before. I think just one time, but I'm pretty sure that I've talked about one of the Diamante because there's several of them. But I think I've talked about Heavenly because honestly, this is not a fragrance that you're going to forget if you get your nose on it. The scent of this fragrance is, as the fragrance name calls it, it is quite heavenly. So let me tell you, and it's not that they're the same, but if you're into shag half men, you know, that freshie that I absolutely love and that I've talked about to exhaustion on the channel, then you're going to love Heavenly because they are like cousins. They're not the same, truly they're not, but they are both freshies and they have like a very similar vibe. Although this fragrance has other notes like ambergris and blackcurrant, I am telling you, the star of this fragrance is the note of tea. I don't know if they've really shared all of the tea notes that you can find in this fragrance, but one thing I can tell you is that this fragrance is definitely tea-centric. So you must be into tea note fragrances in order to appreciate and enjoy this fragrance. But if you are into tea note fragrances, you are going to fall head over heels for this fragrance because although they disclaim, I think it's black tea and some other tea, I can't remember the other tea, but they only mention 2 teas. To my nose, I'm also picking up on green tea. Another thing that I can tell you and that I absolutely love about this fragrance and that really surprised me is its performance, because typically when you have a tea fragrance, it's not that they're weak, but they're not designed to be a powerhouse. But this fragrance, oh, this is a powerhouse for being a tea fragrance that's also like bordering on being a freshie, because it definitely wears like a freshie. And I know I'm probably not making sense to you, but if you get your nose on this fragrance, you will definitely understand what I mean. It is a freshie fragrance that is really a tea fragrance. And at that, I am getting a minimum of 7 hours without overspraying. And on clothes, I definitely get much more than that. But this is a fragrance that has a moderate projection and a moderate sillage. And one thing that I really love about this fragrance is that although it performs that well, it at no point makes like an excessive statement. So you are going to have a moderate projection and a moderate sillage, and you are going to get a good number of hours on skin from this fragrance. But at all times, it's going to be a skin scent. But the skin scent is a strong skin scent that you will be able to smell on yourself and others around you will definitely pick up on. This is a fragrance that I think is suited for any age group, and I dare say that you can pull this off all throughout the year, but this is definitely best during the spring and summer seasons. I consider this fragrance to be completely feminine and also a fragrance that you can dress up, you can dress down, and you can use it for any occasion, day or night, except for formal events. This is not, to me, a fragrance that I would wear if I'm going to a black tie event or a very formal kind of event. The next fragrance that I want to share with you is a fragrance that is very special from the 6 that I'm going to share with you today, because it has a note that I'm sure by now you know that I love, and that's the note of caramel. But in addition to that note of caramel, it has some florals, and it has been done just beautifully. And I am speaking about Diamante Divine. So Diamante Divine is a fragrance that, to my nose, is very musky. So you must love a musk-based fragrance. But at that, the fragrance opens up with a very dominant jasmine, but the jasmine is not one of those white florals that's going to give you a headache or anything like that. It's a very nicely done jasmine, but it is definitely a dominant note. And soon thereafter, the fragrance starts to become a bit sweet. And as the sweetness comes in, which is what I absolutely love, it starts to introduce the note of caramel. And oh my goodness, it is so, so beautiful and so different, guys. So the jasmine is present from the moment that you spray it until whatever number of hours you decide to wear the fragrance, you are going to be picking up on the jasmine. So you have to be a jasmine lover in order to appreciate this fragrance. But that caramel, oh my goodness. And then at the dry down, what you're going to get is that beautiful jasmine, and then it translates to like a sweetened kind of jasmine. You no longer necessarily pick up on the note of caramel, but the sweetness of the caramel remains and like wraps around the jasmine, if I'm even making any sense. And then you have that musk at the base and a little bit of ambergris. I don't pick up on the moss note at all, but I definitely pick up on all the other notes at the dry down. And together they form truly, as the name of the fragrance says it, a divine experience. Let me know if you've tried this fragrance, because this is really a unique and beautifully done jasmine-centric fragrance. This fragrance also borders on beast, and it's not necessarily because the jasmine is overpowering or overwhelming or anything like that. I tell you, there is nothing screechy or out of line in the blend of this fragrance. Everything has been aligned and done beautifully. The jasmine is the star. You must love the jasmine in order to appreciate this fragrance, but at the same time, you are going to get a higher than moderate projection during the first 2 hours, after which it's going to become a scent bubble. The scent bubble is going to last like another hour, and then it becomes a skin scent. But the skin scent will give you whiffs all throughout the day. You will smell yourself, and others will definitely know that you're in the room. This is a fragrance that is a bit bold and will make a statement, because jasmine is not one of those notes that tends to be demure. Actually, most of the time when you have a jasmine-centric fragrance, you may notice that you have to be careful, because it could give you a headache, or it could be a bit overpowering or take over the entire note structure of the fragrance. But that's not the case with Divine, because Divine is divine. Everything has been aligned so, so beautifully, guys. I really hope that you can get your nose on it. If you are a jasmine fragrance lover, this is a fragrance you don't want to miss. I can assure you there is absolutely no oud in this fragrance, and this is a fragrance that I definitely say is more suitable for 25 plus. You can dress this down, you can dress it up. This is not necessarily, just because it makes a bold statement, this is not necessarily a fragrance that I would just reserve for special events or formal events. I definitely think that you can dress it down and you can dress it up. But this is not a fragrance to go to the gym or to go ride your bicycle. This is definitely a fragrance that you want to wear when you are getting dressed, whether it's informal or more formal, and you just want to feel beautiful and alluring. This is also a fragrance that I do not consider to be unisex. This is designed for ladies, and it is definitely a feminine fragrance to my nose. The next fragrance that I want to share with you is Victory for Women. Now guys, Victory for Women, I know that I've discussed this fragrance here on the channel, I think one time before. This is a fragrance that when I first sprayed it and sniffed it, I automatically fell in love with it. So what I really love about this fragrance, and that I've come to really appreciate in the month plus that I've been able to use it here and there, is the fact that although this is a freshie, this is a freshie with a lot of oomph, if you know what I mean. And the oomph is coming from the note of tuberose. So this fragrance opens with quite a bit of bergamot. It is very fresh. And I also pick up on the note of lemon. It is very clear to my nose that bergamot and lemon are at the lead in the opening. But almost immediately, I start to pick up on the note of tuberose. And that note will be present until dry down and all throughout the wear of the fragrance. So you must love a tuberose fragrance in order to pick up this fragrance and really enjoy it. It is a freshy, but kind of not, because, you know, if you are familiar with tuberose fragrances, you're probably wondering, okay, Arahi, you're saying that it's a freshie. And if it's a freshie, how are you saying that the tuberose is dominant? Because one of these things is not like the other and doesn't really belong. But I am telling you, this is a freshy kind of fragrance. I can't explain it, but it's the way it is. This is a freshy fragrance where the tuberose is quite dominant. And I also pick up on the jasmine and the lang lang. But the lang lang is faint and weak in the background. The jasmine is trying to compete for attention with the tuberose, but the tuberose is not having it, guys. The tuberose is the star of this fragrance. And at the dry down, guys, oh my goodness, that's the part that really gets me about this fragrance, because you have that sandalwood, which gives the fragrance like a little bit of edge, like additional edge, like if it needed any more with the tuberose. But the sandalwood brings like a woodiness without necessarily becoming creamy. And then you have that beautiful vanilla, and you have those florals. Oh my goodness. It is just perfection. And at all this, guys, all throughout the journey, you never miss out on the freshness of the opening, which is why I'm telling you that this fragrance is a freshie, in addition to being a fragrance that's quite strong on that note of tuberose and the vanilla. But this fragrance is just a delight. This is also a fragrance that gets me 7+ hours without having to overspray. Now, this fragrance has had a chance to macerate, which I had mentioned, as well as the others, because I've had them for almost 2 months now. But these fragrances, oh my goodness, the performance is just stellar. This one has not really garnered any compliments, but I can tell you that it does have a very strong projection during the first 2.5 hours, and it has a very strong sillage. And curiously enough, this is a fragrance that you are going to smell on yourself, but it's not one that's overpowering for those who are around you. So while Divine does make a statement when you arrive, this one is a bit more demure, but has a longer lasting power because it is a scent bubble all throughout the journey. Anyway, guys, please let me know if you had picked this one up from my previous featuring here on the channel, because I can tell you this one is exceptional and it's just so different for being a freshie. I can tell you for sure that this fragrance has no oud, and this is also a fragrance that I would consider to be perfect for age groups 25 plus. This is a very, very versatile fragrance. I am telling you, the only limitation or the only caution that I have for you is that I really believe you need to love the note of tuberose in order to appreciate this fragrance. Please let me know if you've gotten your nose on it. All right, so if you've been with me for any amount of time recently, this fragrance will not come as a surprise for you. And this fragrance used to be my #1 Rasasi favorite until the new #1 took over, which I'll talk about, of course, after this one. But coming in at #2 is my beloved Rasasi Elite Lady. Now guys, this fragrance is now in the #2 spot, but it's not because I don't love it anymore. I absolutely love this fragrance. I actually love this fragrance as much as you guys know that I love Fleur Oud from Cadlash. I compared them a lot in past videos, and I know some of you picked up this fragrance, so please let us know your opinion in the comment section if you did pick it up and you've had the opportunity to try it on skin. This fragrance is the epitome of elegance and sophistication in a bottle, just like Fleur Oud. But they're not the same at all, because I've always tried to explain that to you. There are marked differences between both of these fragrances. I can also tell you that this one performs better than Fleur Oud, even though we all know that Fleur Oud performs beautifully. But this fragrance, this one borders on beast. But the interesting part about it is that even though it's bordering on being a beast performance fragrance, it's not like obnoxious in making a statement when you arrive. This is a fragrance that I'm going to tell you right now has gotten me so many compliments because it is a force to be reckoned with. It is an absolutely beautifully exquisite, just like the name says it, elite lady kind of fragrance. But if you're in your late 20s or in your early 30s and you're hearing me talk about elite lady and elegance and sophistication, you're probably wondering, okay, Arahi, so should this be more for my mom than for me? No. This is a fragrance, believe me, that you will be able to carry. Oh my goodness, you will be able to carry it beautifully, whether you're in your late 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s. It doesn't matter. Any age group can really pull this fragrance off because this is a fragrance that, guys, is just so exquisitely done. So let me tell you what happens with this fragrance. So it opens quite fresh. But it never, at least to my nose, it never gives me the impression of, oh, is this going to be a full-on freshie? No. You know why? Because from the moment that I sniff it, and I do pick up clearly on the note of bergamot and lemon, I also pick up on the oud. There is oud in this fragrance. But the oud, guys, the oud here has been done so smoothly, it's almost negligible. Like, unless you really understand the note of oud and your nose is trained to pick up on the note of oud, you may miss it completely and just think that this is a freshie with the bergamot and the lemon, at least in the opening, till the florals start to kick in. But I am telling you, from the opening, and if you have this fragrance, let me know. Do you pick up on the oud from the opening? Because I do clearly. Now, the oud in this fragrance is not a touch of oud, but it's not an intense oud. It's not a semi-intense oud. No, it's just such a smooth oud that it just pairs beautifully with those opening notes of bergamot and lemon. And almost immediately after that, I start to pick up on the rose. So when I first got my nose on this fragrance, I thought that this was going to be yet another interpretation of like a rose oud kind of fragrance, because the fragrance opened rather fresh, but I picked up on the oud and then I picked up on the rose. It's not a rose oud fragrance, because I'm going to tell you right now that this fragrance is all about the florals, how the florals have been done together. And although they only disclaim jasmine and rose, I'm telling you right now, there's other florals in this fragrance for sure. I can almost guarantee you that this is a mix of yellow and white florals, even though it has not been disclaimed. The rose takes a backdrop type of role. She fades into the background for sure. And at the dry down, she almost disappears. The oud is negligible at the dry down, but those florals are present. It is a beautifully, beautifully done floral fragrance, in my opinion. That's what it is, a floral fragrance that also has a fresh quality to it. It's not fresh spicy because I'm not picking up on spices. What I am picking up is on the freshness and that combination of florals. At the dry down, you are going to get that ambery quality to the fragrance, supplemented by a very, very, very faint kind of oud note that is more smooth than anything. And of course, you have those florals. All in all, this is a exquisite creation for a floral fragrance. I'm not crazy about too many florals in a fragrance. I like to have other notes that add a bit more character and a bit more of a journey to the fragrance. But I have to tell you, this is an incredibly done floral fragrance because that freshness that is there from beginning to end is just unprecedented, at least in my collection. To have a freshie with that mix of florals and have it done so beautifully is just exquisite. This is a fragrance that I never overspray because, to be honest with you, I don't want to take the chance of the florals taking over or being a bit much. So I never overspray it. And without overspraying, it gets me at a minimum 7 hours. It definitely has a strong projection during the first hour, hour and a half, at which point it becomes a scent bubble. And that scent bubble will last you about a couple more hours before it becomes a skin scent. At the skin scent level, it is a bit intimate, definitely not a skin scent that you're going to be smelling all day long. Even though you can smell the fragrance on you, it's not going to give you whiffs of the fragrance throughout the day, at least not on my skin. This is also a fragrance that you can definitely dress down, dress up. And this is a fragrance that I think is best suited for 25 plus and also for the seasons of spring and summer. But this is a fragrance that you could probably pull off all throughout the year if you do not live in a very cold weather region. I tell you, this is a fragrance that I can't recommend highly enough. I mean, you just cannot go wrong with this fragrance because in addition to all that, I really think that this fragrance is such an easy pull. When in doubt, go for Elite Lady. Just like I used to tell you about Fleur Oud, which I hate to keep mentioning her, but honestly, they really do provide that same level of sophistication and elegance without you coming across as dated. There's just like a modern edge to these fragrances, and the way that the blend is done is just magnificent. Absolutely recommend it, Elite Lady. All right, guys, so I hope that you guys are ready for this next fragrance because you guys know that when I leave a fragrance for the last 2 or 3 fragrances in any video, those are the fragrances that I'm passionate about, all the fragrances typically that I bring to you. But the last fragrance that I talk about is a fragrance that that has me on a chokehold, that I'm super obsessed with, that I just can't even believe how they did that, like I am telling you. And this one, are you ready? I am speaking about Diamante Celestial. Okay, did you see the notes? Can you please explain to me what Rasasi did with this fragrance? So this fragrance is like a masterpiece. It's a combination of it's a combination of florals, fruitiness, spiciness. It's got it all in here. And this is a very ambery fragrance that has a ton of vanilla. Oh my goodness. And at all that, it never loses its freshness. I tell you, this entire collection that I've shared with you today is geared for spring and summer for sure, but some of these fragrances are like masterpieces because they're freshies that are really not. Like, they're freshy, but they're really not. And this one is the queen of that scenario. It opens with bergamot, and I definitely pick up on the pear note, but I am also picking up on grapefruit. They don't disclaim it, but I am telling you, my nose is getting grapefruit. I'm picking up on the bergamot. The pear is definitely here, and I'm picking up on grapefruit. But they're saying bergamot and pear, so we're going to stick to that story. Then, as the journey continues, the florals start to come in. And did you hear that I said florals, but you probably only saw rose in the notes that I just shared? That's because I'm picking up more than just a rose. This fragrance just doesn't have rose. There's rose and something else here. And that I can't really distinguish. I've tried so hard to figure out what other floral is it, or maybe it's a couple of florals, but the rose is definitely here. It is not a mature rose, but it's not a young rose. It's a rose that's been, that has bloomed maybe a couple of days ago, so you can clearly pick up on the note of rose. You can smell the rose. It's not demure, it's not light, it's not dated, it's not too intense, it's not juicy. No. This rose is a fresh bloom rose of maybe a couple of days. And then the fragrance becomes a spicy fragrance, because now you're going to get like a fresh, spicy quality to the fragrance. So far you have an opening which is very citrusy. You have a fruitiness to it. You have a fragrance that's a tad sweet, because it's not really a sweet fragrance to my nose, but it's a tad sweet. And now you're bringing in the florals. And of course, now you're adding the spices. In the spice category, I'm definitely getting the nutmeg. I'm not picking up on the marjoram, but I am picking up on pink pepper, even though it's not disclaimed. And at the dry down, oh my goodness. So let me tell you, I don't think I've ever shared with you that Vetiver and I were never good friends until I encountered Vetiver Delight. Then I started to look into other fragrances with Vetiver, because I realized that maybe it's that the experiences that I had to date with Vetiver were not the best. Okay, this fragrance has the Vetiver done almost the same as in Vetiver Delight. They're not the same fragrance at all. They don't have the same vibe. I can just tell you that the way that I'm picking up the Vetiver to my nose, it's the exact same way that my nose picks it up on Vetiver Delight. This is magnificent. The dry down here, the dry down of this fragrance is just, oh my goodness. You get a ton of vanilla with the spices, and then you also get a good amount of vetiver, and then you've never lost the freshness of the bergamot and the grapefruit that I'm telling you is in here. And then you have the florals, you have the spices, and it all comes together. And at the dry down, it's like you really can't distinguish the notes. Throughout the olfactory journey, you can clearly pick up on all the notes. You're either going to pick up on all the notes that I just shared with you, or you're going to pick up on more than that, or you're going to pick up on less. But you are clearly going to be able to say, oh, there's the bergamot. Oh, there's the rose. Oh, there's the nutmeg or the marjoram, even though I did not get marjoram. But I am telling you, at the dry down, you are just going to get the most exquisite blend of a fragrance. So where before the fragrance really, you didn't know if it was a floral or a spicy fragrance or a fruity fragrance, well, at the dry down, you're just going to get an exquisite blend that you're going to want to wear. It's bordering on addictive for me, guys. I'm just telling you right now, because this fragrance is just so incredible. I am so excited, because this is also a fragrance that borders on Beast. but not as much as others that I have shared with you today. Without overspraying, this one gets me 7 hours. It has a very strong projection during the first 2 hours, at which point it becomes a skin scent, not a scent bubble. But that skin scent will give you woofs of the fragrance all throughout the day. All throughout the day. And this is a fragrance that on clothes will last, I don't know, until you launder them. I mean, it is that type of a fragrance. So the sillage on this fragrance is not strong, but it's not moderate. It's a little bit more than moderate. This is a fragrance that I have received compliments with. Not a lot, just a couple of compliments. And I've worn this fragrance several times, at least 4 or 5 times, if not more, because I really love the fragrance. I haven't even been able to start playing with it and try and figure out some layering combinations, because when I spray this fragrance, I just want to wear the fragrance, because I don't think this needs anything. I just think you just need to spray this fragrance and call it a day. I had never brought it to the channel, but if you've tried this fragrance, by any chance you saw it and you picked it up, please let us know your thoughts, because I tell you, this is just absolutely exquisite. This is a fragrance that I do not pick up on any oud whatsoever in this fragrance. But there's so much going on in it. But I'm telling you, I don't pick up on any oud. This is also a fragrance that I would say is best suited for a 30 plus type of group. A 25 plus may be able to get away with it, but to be sure, I'm going to say that this is a 30 plus. There is an air here of confidence and boldness and worldliness. There's just a lot here. This is a very complex type of fragrance. There's nothing flirty or light about this fragrance. No, this is definitely an intense type of fragrance, if you know what I mean. And this is also a fragrance that I think that you can definitely dress it down, you can dress it up, and this is an all year round. I know that it was designed for spring and summer, but for me, this will be an all year round without a problem. This is a fragrance that you can definitely wear just with a pair of jeans and a t-shirt, or you can wear it to a black tie event. That's the level of versatility of this fragrance. I tell you, I'm just absolutely impressed with it and absolutely recommend it. All right, guys, so we've reached the end of today's video, and I am so excited that I was able to share with you these 6 fragrances, because it is rare that I find a group of fragrances that are all winners and heavy hitters. And within that group of 6, the top 3, I am telling you, those fragrances are beyond exceptional. I mean, they have really made their mark in my very extensive collection, whether it's Western niche or Middle Eastern or designer or affordable. These fragrances have made their mark and earned their spot in my collection. And I mean, a couple of them I think will enter my lifer list, because that's how strongly I'm feeling about them. Anyway, guys, if you've tried any of these fragrances, please let us know in the comments section. And of course, I always recommend that if you can get a sample, get a sample. But a lot of these fragrances are pretty safe blind buys, in my opinion. Just make sure that you review the notes and that you also take into account my words of caution. Like, for example, fragrances with a tuberose note that is very dominant and centric, things like that I tell you throughout the review. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. And thank you so much for hanging with me today. I will see you in the next video.